Wealthy CEO marries a humble girl in a contract marriage, then discovers she's a virgin and falls crazily in love. The pregnancy test sat on the marble bathroom counter between them. Two pink lines. Isla's hands trembled as she looked up at Dante, searching his face for any sign of what he was thinking. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was a business arrangement. A contract. Nothing more. Dante stared at the test, his jaw tight, his gray eyes unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw. I don't care about the contract anymore, Isla. I don't care about the board, or the company, or any of it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Isla felt tears burning her eyes. Dante, we agreed. 2 years, then we walk away. This wasn't part of the plan. He moved closer, his hands reaching for her face with a gentleness that made her heart ache. Forget the plan. Forget what we agreed. I'm telling you right now, standing here with you carrying my child, that I have fallen completely and utterly in love with you, and it terrifies me because I swore I would never let anyone in again. But you walked past every wall I built like they were made of paper. You don't mean that, Isla whispered, even as her heart raced with hope. You're just reacting to the baby. Dante's laugh was shaky, almost broken. The baby is a miracle I never expected. But you, Isla, you became my miracle the moment you looked at my buildings and saw the stories beneath the steel. You saw me when I had forgotten how to see myself. So no, this isn't about the contract anymore. This is about a man who was half dead inside asking the woman who brought him back to life if she feels even a fraction of what he feels. Isla's tears spilled over. What are you asking me? I'm asking if our contract marriage could become something real. I'm asking if you could love a man who comes with broken pieces and trust issues and a past that almost destroyed him. I'm asking, his voice dropped to a whisper, if you already do. Have you ever signed a contract that changed your entire life in ways you never imagined? What happens when two broken people build something beautiful from the ruins of their pasts? What happens when a marriage that was never supposed to mean anything becomes everything? This is the story of Dante Blackwood and Isla Moreno, a billionaire architect with a shattered heart and a struggling historian with impossible choices. A contract marriage that was meant to save his company and her mother's life. But somewhere between the signatures and the staged photographs, between the fake smiles and the real conversations, something unexpected happened. They fell in love. And that love would be tested by conspiracies, betrayals, dangerous secrets, and a pregnancy that might have been engineered by their enemies. But before we get to how they survived the storm, let me take you back to where it all began. Back to the day Dante Blackwood decided that the only way to protect his heart was to make sure it never got involved again. If you believe in second chances and love that breaks all the rules, go ahead and hit that like button right now. Trust me, you are going to want to stay for every moment of this journey. The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Blackwood Architecture's Manhattan headquarters. Each drop caught the amber glow of the setting sun, creating rivers of gold against the glass. Dante Blackwood stood motionless, watching the city blur beneath the downpour. His reflection stared back at him. A man in an expensive suit. A man who had conquered skylines across the world. A man who had just signed divorce papers from a woman who never loved him at all. At 37, Dante was everything the media said he was. Visionary architect. Self-made billionaire. A man who had transformed modern design with buildings that seemed to breathe, that understood how humans moved through space. His projects graced covers of Architectural Digest, and stood as landmarks in Dubai, Tokyo, Singapore, New York. But today, surrounded by scale models of buildings yet to be born, he felt hollow. Empty. Like the structures he created, beautiful on the outside, echoing with emptiness within. The divorce papers lay on his mahogany desk. Victoria Ashford Blackwood, soon to be just Victoria Ashford again. Her signature was elegant, flowing, each letter perfectly formed. Just like everything about her had been perfectly formed. Perfectly fake. Perfectly calculated. Mr. Blackwood. His assistant Julian's voice crackled through the intercom. The board is assembled in the sky room. They are waiting for you, sir. Dante pressed the response button. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. The same amount of time it had taken Victoria to confess when he confronted her with the evidence. 3 minutes to admit that Sebastian Kane, CEO of Kane Development Group, and Dante's biggest competitor, had orchestrated their entire relationship. That their meeting at the Museum of Modern Art Gala 5 years ago was not chance but design. That every smile, every touch, every whispered "I love you" had been a performance worthy of Broadway. Sebastian Cain had played the long game. Plant a beautiful, ambitious woman in Dante's path. Let her charm him, marry him, gain his trust. And while Dante was distracted by what he thought was love, Cain systematically bought up properties that Blackwood architecture needed for expansion, stole designs through Victoria's access to Dante's home office, undermined deals with carefully leaked information that only a wife would know. The private investigator's photographs were still burned into Dante's memory. Victoria and Sebastian at a cafe in Paris, their heads bent together over blueprints. Dante's blueprints, Victoria accepting a diamond necklace that cost more than most people earned in a year. Victoria in Sebastian's penthouse wearing nothing but expensive lingerie and a smile that she had never given her husband. Dante's jaw clenched. His hand formed a fist against the cool glass of the window. He had trusted her. Had opened the walls he had built so carefully after his father abandoned him and his mother. Had let Victoria see the parts of himself he showed no one. The boy who grew up in a small apartment while his mother worked 3 jobs. The teenager who studied architecture magazines salvaged from the offices she cleaned. The man who still called his mother every Sunday and sent money to fund scholarships for kids like he had been. Victoria had taken all of that vulnerability and sold it to the highest bidder. His phone buzzed. His younger brother Phoenix. The message was simple. "Brother, please tell me you are not still at the office. Mom is worried." "I am worried. Come to dinner." Dante typed back quickly. "Working. Don't wait up." He silenced the phone and slipped it into his pocket. Phoenix meant well. Their mother meant well. But sitting around a dinner table pretending everything was fine when his life had just imploded was not something Dante could manage tonight. Work he understood. Buildings made sense. You drew plans. You followed specifications. You created something that would stand for generations. Clean. Logical. Predictable. Unlike love, which was chaos dressed up as connection, the Sky Room occupied the entire top floor of the Blackwood building. Dante had designed it himself. Glass walls that made you feel suspended in air. A table carved from a single piece of reclaimed oak. Lighting that adjusted to the time of day, always perfect, never harsh. The board members were already seated. 7 men and 2 women who had believed in Dante when he was nobody. Who had invested in his vision when he was a 25-year-old with more ambition than capital. He owed them his success. And now they were about to tell him he might lose it. "Mr. Blackwood." Margaret Torres spoke first. She was 72, sharp as broken glass, with silver hair and dark eyes that missed nothing. She had been his first major investor. "We appreciate you making time for this meeting. I know the timing is difficult. Let's skip the pleasantries, Margaret." Dante took his seat at the head of the table. "What is the situation with Cain?" Thomas Way, the chief financial advisor, slid a folder across the table. "Sebastian Cain has acquired the riverside parcels. All of them. The properties we needed for the Waterfront Sustainable Community Project." Dante's blood ran cold. The waterfront project was his masterpiece in development. A fully sustainable residential community that would revolutionize urban living. Affordable housing integrated with green spaces, renewable energy, community resources. It was the project that mattered more than any skyscraper with his name on it. And without those parcels, it was dead. "How much will this delay us?" Dante asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. 2 years minimum, Thomas said quietly. "And we are looking at 40 million in losses from the contracts we will have to break." 40 million. 2 years. Dante felt the walls closing in. "There is more," Margaret said, and her tone made Dante's stomach tighten. "The shareholders are concerned, Dante. The divorce, the delays, Cain's aggressive expansion into our markets. They are questioning whether you are still the right person to lead this company." The words landed like a physical blow. Dante kept his expression neutral, but inside something cracked. This company was everything. He had built it from nothing, had worked 100-hour weeks, had sacrificed relationships, health, any semblance of normal life. And now they were questioning his leadership because his wife had betrayed him? "I see," he said evenly. "And what exactly are the shareholders proposing?" Margaret looked uncomfortable. "It is the company bylaws, Dante. The succession clause. Your mother insisted on it when we incorporated." Dante closed his eyes briefly. He knew exactly what clause she meant. His mother, terrified that her brilliant workaholic son would end up alone and burnt out like his absent father, had embedded a requirement. The CEO of Blackwood Architecture must be married with a clear succession plan to maintain controlling interest in the company. At the time, it had seemed like an old-fashioned quirk. His mother's attempt to ensure he built a life, not just a career. Now it was a noose around his neck. "How long do I have?" Dante asked. 6 months, Thomas said quietly. "You need to be married with a documented succession plan, or the board is forced to open a vote for new leadership. And Dante, Sebastian Kane has been quietly buying shares through shell companies. If there is a vote and the shareholders are uncertain about your stability, he could actually take control." The ultimate victory for Kane. Not just stealing Dante's projects but taking his entire company. The company Dante had named after his mother's maiden name. The company that was supposed to be his legacy. "Understood," Dante said, standing. He smoothed his suit jacket, his armor back in place. "You will have your solution within the month." The board members filed out, offering sympathetic looks and reassurances that meant nothing. When the last one left, Dante stood alone in the sky room, watching night devour the city. Below him, millions of lights flickered on. Homes. Families. Lives he would never be part of. His phone rang. Marcus Lynn, his attorney and one of the few people Dante actually trusted. "I heard," Marcus said without preamble. "The board's ultimatum. I have been researching options." "Options?" Dante moved to the window, pressing his palm against the cold glass. What options does a man have when he has already proven he cannot trust his own judgment about people? "Contract marriages," Marcus said. "They are more common than you think in our circles. Clear legal terms. Mutual benefit. Protection for both parties. No emotion, no risk of betrayal. Just a business arrangement that serves both people's needs." Dante was quiet for a long moment. The idea should have repulsed him, but there was a cold logic to it that appealed to the part of him that never wanted to be vulnerable again. A marriage built on honesty about its transactional nature. No lies. No false promises of love. Just two people with compatible needs creating a mutually beneficial arrangement. "What would I be looking for?" Dante asked. "In a candidate. Someone with no connections to your competitors. Clean background check. Intelligent enough to navigate high society events. Discreet. And ideally someone with their own compelling reason to agree. It ensures they have as much invested in the success of the arrangement as you do." "Find me candidates," Dante said. "Full background checks. Financial history. Psychological profiles. I want to know everything." "Already started," Marcus admitted. "There is one that stands out. Isla Moreno, 2008. Architectural historian working at the New York Historical Preservation Society. Brilliant mind. Published research. And Dante, she has a situation that makes the financial compensation extremely attractive." "What situation?" "Her mother has advanced stage cancer. Experimental treatments not covered by insurance. Isla is drowning in medical debt while working 2 jobs to try to cover it. She is exactly the kind of person who would understand a mutually beneficial arrangement." "Send me everything you have," Dante said. "I will review it tonight. If she looks viable, set up a meeting for tomorrow morning." "There is one more thing," Marcus hesitated. "She is very different from Victoria. Quiet. Private. Not part of the social scene at all. The psychological profile suggests she is genuinely passionate about her work, deeply devoted to her mother, and has very little experience with relationships." "Good," Dante said flatly. "Victoria was all performance and charm. I want someone real, even if the relationship is not." After hanging up, Dante returned to his private office. The space was minimalist, all clean lines and neutral tones. Victoria had convinced him to remove everything personal. Family photos, his mother's paintings, the model of the first building he ever designed. She said it was clutter. That minimalism was sophisticated. He had agreed because he thought that was what love was. Compromise. Becoming what the other person needed. Now the space felt like a mausoleum. Beautiful, and dead. Dante poured himself 3 fingers of scotch. 30-year aged single malt that cost more than he used to make in a month. He did not even taste it as it burned down his throat. He was thinking about the contract marriage idea, analyzing it like he would analyze a building design. What were the load-bearing walls? What were the potential failure points? A marriage built on clear expectations, no emotional investment, no vulnerability, no chance of betrayal because there would be nothing to betray. Just two people helping each other solve problems that could not be solved alone. It made sense. Cold, logical, perfectly structured sense. His computer pinged with an email from Marcus. The file on Isla Moreno. Dante opened it, scanning the contents. 28 years old. Graduate degree in architectural history from Columbia. Currently employed at the New York Historical Preservation Society as a senior research analyst. Published articles in major journals about adaptive reuse and historical integration in modern design. He clicked on her photo. The professional headshot showed a young woman with honey blonde hair pulled back simply, green eyes that looked intelligent and kind. She was not traditionally beautiful like Victoria, but there was something compelling about her face, a quiet strength, a gentleness that came through even in a professional photograph. Dante read her published work next. An article about his Blackwood Tower renovation caught his attention. She had written about how he had preserved Art Deco elements from the original 1930s building while creating something entirely new. Her analysis was insightful, seeing things in his design that even architectural critics had missed. She understood that he was not trying to erase history but to honor it while building toward the future. This woman saw his buildings the way he intended them to be seen. She understood that architecture was storytelling. The financial section of the report was painful to read. Isla's mother, Carmen Moreno, had been diagnosed with an aggressive cancer 3 years ago. Standard treatments had failed. The experimental immunotherapy that was showing promise cost $30,000 per month and was not covered by insurance. Isla had taken out loans, maxed out credit cards, picked up freelance research work on top of her full-time job. She was working herself into the ground trying to save her mother and she was still losing. The psychological profile described her as intensely private, deeply loyal, conflict avoidant, and someone who carried burdens without asking for help. Her romantic history was almost non-existent. A few brief relationships in college that had not progressed beyond casual dating. No serious partners. The assessor noted that Isla seemed to have difficulty trusting people with her emotional needs, preferring to maintain independence even when struggling. Dante understood that instinct. He had lived it. By the time he finished reviewing the file, it was past midnight. The city below had quieted to its late-night rhythm. Dante stood at his window again, this time seeing not just buildings but possibilities. A woman who understood architecture, who needed help he could provide, who seemed unlikely to perform or manipulate because she was too genuine for such games. He typed a message to Marcus. Set up the meeting. Tomorrow morning. 8 a.m. My private dining room here. Make sure she understands this is a professional opportunity requiring discretion. The response came quickly. Done. I will send a car for her at 7:30. Dante poured another scotch but did not drink it. Instead he stood holding the glass, watching the amber liquid catch the light. Somewhere in this city, Isla Moreno was probably working late, trying to earn enough money to buy her mother another month of life. She had no idea that tomorrow morning her entire world was about to change. Neither did Dante. He thought he was engineering a simple solution to a complex problem. A business transaction dressed up as a marriage. He had no idea that some structures, no matter how carefully designed to be temporary, become permanent. That some foundations, built on honesty even about their artificial nature, become strong enough to support something real. Tomorrow he would meet Isla Moreno and propose a contract marriage. What he could not know was that the woman who walked into his office would walk right past every wall he had built and find the man hiding behind them. That her quiet strength would become his anchor. That her gentleness would heal wounds he did not even know he still carried. Love was not supposed to be part of the blueprint. But, as any architect knows, the most beautiful structures are often the ones that evolve beyond their original plans. The ones that become something more than their designers imagined. Dante Blackwood was about to learn that lesson. And it would change everything. The morning sun had not yet risen when Isla Moreno arrived at the New York Historical Preservation Society offices. She let herself in with her key, breathing in the familiar smell of old paper and wood polish. This brownstone in the West Village was more home to her than her tiny studio apartment. Here, surrounded by documents and photographs and stories of buildings long gone, she felt safe, understood, useful. Her desk was covered with research for the 1920s Warehouse District report due next week. Normally she would dive right in, losing herself in the past, but this morning she could not focus. Her phone sat on the desk, Marcus Lynn's message still glowing on the screen. Car will collect you at 7:30. Breakfast meeting? Business formal. Business formal. Isla looked down at her usual work clothes. Black slacks that she had owned for 5 years. A cream-colored blouse that was professional enough but certainly not impressive. Comfortable. Flats because she spent hours in archives and climbing ladders to reach high shelves. This was not business formal by Manhattan standards. She had gone home last night and pulled out the navy dress, the one she saved for donor presentations when she had to look polished and professional. It fit well enough, hugged her figure in ways that made her self-conscious. Made her feel like she was playing dress-up in someone else's life. But if Dante Blackwood wanted business formal, she would give him business formal. Isla still could not figure out what this meeting was about. She had researched Dante Blackwood until 2 in the morning. Youngest recipient of the Pritzker Architecture Prize. Revolutionary designs that somehow balanced modernism with deep respect for human needs. Recently divorced in a scandal that the tabloids were still dissecting with glee. His ex-wife Victoria had apparently been having an affair with Sebastian Kane. And there were hints of corporate espionage, though the details were sealed. The architectural journals focused on his work's integrity, how his buildings told stories, how he incorporated historical elements in ways that honored the past while creating something new. Isla had studied his Blackwood Tower renovation in graduate school. Had written a paper about it. The way he had preserved the original Art Deco facade while building something entirely modern behind it was brilliant. It was architecture as conversation between eras, but why would a man like that want to meet with her? She was nobody. A researcher who loved old buildings and spent her weekends in dusty archives. The only thing remarkable about Isla Moreno was the mountain of debt she was drowning under and her stubborn refusal to let her mother die. At 7:15, Isla changed in the office bathroom. The navy dress, the heels that made her 3 inches taller but hurt after 10 minutes. She let her hair down from its usual practical bun, brushing it until it fell in soft waves. Minimal makeup because she did not own much and did not really know how to apply it. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw a woman pretending to be someone she was not. The black car arrived exactly at 7:30. The driver was professional and silent. The interior smelled like expensive leather and cedar. Isla sat rigidly in the back seat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She tried to calm her racing heart by doing what she always did. She looked at the buildings they passed and catalogued them. 1860s brownstone. 1920s commercial building with Art Deco details. Modern glass tower that had no soul, all flash and no substance. Then they pulled up in front of Blackwood Tower and Isla forgot to breathe. She had seen photographs, had studied the architectural plans. But being here, standing at its base and looking up, was different. The building seemed to grow organically from the street. Glass and steel that caught the morning light and threw it back in patterns that changed as you moved. But at the foundation, preserved and honored, were the Art Deco details from the original 1930s structure. Dante Blackwood had not erased history. He had built on it. With it. Had created a dialogue between past and future. It was the most beautiful building she had ever seen. Marcus Lynn met her in the lobby. He was younger than she expected, maybe early 40s, with kind eyes and a warm smile. "Miss Moreno. Thank you for coming. Mr. Blackwood is waiting in the private dining room." Isla followed him into an elevator that was all mirrors and soft lighting. Her reflection looked back at her from multiple angles. A nervous woman in a dress that was nice but not expensive. Hair that was neat but not styled. She did not belong here. This world of wealth and power was as foreign to her as the surface of Mars. The elevator opened onto a floor that took her breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows, natural light everywhere, and on the walls, photographs of Dante Blackwood's buildings at different times of day. Each image captured how light transformed the spaces, how buildings could breathe and change and live. Marcus led her down a hallway to a door. He opened it and stepped aside. "Miss Moreno." Isla walked into the private dining room and forgot every nervous thought in her head. The space was intimate. A table set for 2 with fresh flowers. Windows overlooking the city as it woke up. And there, standing at the window as if he owned the skyline itself, was Dante Blackwood. Photographs had not prepared her. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair that had silver threading through it at the temples. His suit was charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, clearly custom. But it was his eyes that made Isla's breath catch. Storm gray, intelligent, and holding a weariness that she recognized because she saw it in her own mirror every morning. He turned as she entered. For just a moment, something flickered in his expression. Surprise maybe? Or assessment. It vanished so quickly she wondered if she imagined it. Miss Moreno. His voice was deep, controlled, the kind of voice that could fill a room without trying. Thank you for meeting me on short notice. Mr. Blackwood. Isla moved forward, accepting his offered hand. The contact was brief but she felt it. Warmth. Slightly calloused palms, surprising for a CEO. A shiver of electricity that ran up her arm and made her pulse jump. Your building is remarkable. The way you preserved the original Art Deco facade elements while creating something entirely new. It is like a conversation between eras. Dante's eyebrows rose slightly. You studied the Blackwood Tower renovation? In graduate school. Isla let him guide her to a chair. She was grateful to sit because her knees felt weak. I wrote my thesis on adaptive reuse in modern architecture. Your work was a significant case study. He took the seat across from her, and she was suddenly very aware of his presence. The way he filled the space. The intensity of his focus on her. What did you conclude? Isla blinked. This was not small talk. He genuinely wanted to know that the best architecture does not erase history. It honors it while building toward the future. Your work does both. You do not just renovate buildings, you continue their conversation with the city. Something shifted in Dante's expression. The cool professional mask cracked, just slightly. Most people just see glass and steel. They miss the story underneath. Story is everything, Isla said quietly. Buildings are just concrete and stone until we understand the lives lived within them. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Isla felt something pass between them. Recognition maybe. Like finding someone who spoke the same language in a room full of strangers. Then Marcus coughed softly from the doorway and the moment shattered. I should explain why you are here, Dante said, his tone shifting back to business. This is unconventional. But I find myself in need of a solution that requires both discretion and a particular kind of partnership. Partnership. The word made Isla's stomach tighten with nerves. What kind of partnership? You are aware of my recent divorce, Dante said. It was not a question. Isla nodded. What you may not know is that Blackwood Architecture's bylaws contain a succession clause. To maintain my position as CEO, I must be married with a clear succession plan. I have 6 months to comply, or face a board vote I will likely lose. Isla's mind raced. Why was he telling her this? What did it have to do with her? I am proposing a contract marriage, Dante said, his voice steady as if he were discussing building materials. 2 years. Clearly defined terms. Substantial compensation. You would live in my penthouse, attend necessary social functions, present the image of a stable marriage. In return, you would receive $5 million. Half up front, half upon successful completion. The number hit Isla like a physical force. $5 million. Her mother's treatment fully covered. Her debts erased. Financial security she had never imagined. It was impossible. Unreal. Too good to be true. Why me? The words came out as a whisper. Dante's expression softened slightly. You have no connections to my competitors. Your background check showed absolute integrity and discretion. You are intelligent enough to navigate high society while maintaining your career. And, he paused, you have a compelling reason to accept. Your mother's medical expenses are substantial. This would solve that problem. Heat flooded Isla's face. He had investigated her, knew about her mother. Knew about the debt and the struggle, and the quiet desperation that woke her at 3 a.m. The violation should have made her angry. Instead, she felt a strange sense of relief. Someone saw. Someone knew the weight she carried alone. The terms would include strict confidentiality, Dante continued. He slid a thick document across the table. No disclosure of the arrangement's nature. Separate bedrooms, unless you prefer otherwise. Freedom to continue your career. And a guarantee that any future complications would be handled fairly and generously. Isla opened the contract with trembling hands. The language was clear, clinical, protecting both parties. But one clause made her breath stop. In the event of natural conception resulting in offspring, separate terms regarding parental rights and support will be immediately negotiated with the child's welfare as primary consideration. Children. The possibility of children. With this man she did not know. Her face burned hotter. "I am a virgin," she blurted out, then immediately wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Of all the professional responses she could have given, why did she say that? Dante's eyes widened. The first genuine surprise she had seen from him. That is not a requirement, or even a consideration. The contract does not mandate physical intimacy. I know, Isla said quickly. Full disclosure. If we are building an arrangement on honesty, you should know. I am 28 and I am not experienced in relationships beyond professional. If you need someone who can convincingly, she trailed off, mortified. Stop. Dante's voice was gentle now. He leaned forward, his eyes searching her face with an intensity that made her shiver. This arrangement is exactly as real or fake as we choose to make it. No one is asking you to perform anything beyond what you are comfortable with. We will present a united front in public. In private, we can be strangers if that is what you prefer. But something in his eyes said, he did not prefer that. Or maybe Isla was seeing what she wanted to see. Projecting hope onto a situation that was purely transactional. I need time, she said finally. This is a lot to process. You have until 5 p.m. today, Dante said. He sat back, the vulnerable moment passing. The CEO's cool professionalism slid back into place. I understand the timeline is aggressive, but the board meeting is Thursday. I need to present a solution. 5 hours. 5 hours to decide whether to sell the next 2 years of her life. 5 hours to weigh her mother's survival against her own integrity. 5 hours to determine if she could live a lie, even one built on honest terms. I am not asking you to love me, Miss Moreno, Dante said softly. I am asking you to help me protect what I have built while solving a problem you cannot solve alone. It is architecture of a different kind. 2 people building something stable that serves both their needs. And what happens when it ends? Isla asked. After 2 years we just walk away? Yes. The word was firm, but something flickered in his eyes. Regret, maybe. Uncertainty. Clean dissolution. Generous settlement. And hopefully a professional respect that outlasts the arrangement. Isla stood. She needed space to think. To breathe. I will have my answer by 5. Dante rose as well. His height, suddenly overwhelming in the intimate space. Isla, may I call you Isla? She nodded. Whatever you decide, this conversation remains confidential. And if you choose no, there will be no repercussions to your career. You have my word. Isla believed him. Despite the transactional nature of his proposal, despite the calculated way he approached this, she sensed integrity. It was what his buildings had always told her. Dante Blackwood might be wounded, might be walled off, but he was fundamentally honest. The elevator descended, carrying her back to ground level. Back to her real life. Marcus Lynn handed her a business card. My personal number. If you have questions, call anytime. The city swallowed her up. Just another person in the morning rush. Except, her world had tilted completely. Isla walked without direction, her mind spinning. She thought about her mother. The light slowly fading from her eyes between treatments. The way she tried to hide her pain to protect her daughter. The quiet acceptance that she was dying because they could not afford to save her. $5 million would change that. Would give her mother years instead of months. Would erase the debt that was crushing Isla. Would give her freedom she had never known. But what would she lose? Her privacy. Her quiet life. The hope that someday she might find real love. If she spent 2 years in a contract marriage, would not that close the door on authentic connection forever? Unless. Isla stopped walking. The thought crystallized like ice forming on glass. What if this was not closing a door but opening a different one? What if she could help Dante while helping herself? What if 2 broken people could build something together that helped them both heal? She pulled out the business card Marcus had given her. Dialed. Marcus Lynn. It is Isla Moreno. I have questions about the contract. Specifically, I want to add some terms of my own. A pause. Then warmth in his voice. Mr. Blackwood hoped you would negotiate. What are you thinking? By 4:47 that afternoon, Isla stood outside Blackwood Tower again. This time she carried a modified contract. Her additions were simple but important. She wanted the right to continue her preservation work without restriction, a separate office space in his penthouse for her research, and monthly dinners where they would genuinely try to know each other beyond the arrangement. If they were going to build this structure together, even temporarily, Isla wanted it to have a foundation of real human connection. Not love maybe, but respect, understanding, the acknowledgement that they were both people, not just parties to a contract. Marcus led her to Dante's office. The space took her breath away. Models of buildings covered every surface, each one a miniature masterpiece. And there at his massive desk, sleeves rolled up and reading glasses perched on his nose, was Dante Blackwood, looking almost human, almost approachable, almost like someone she could know. He stood when she entered, tension in the set of his shoulders. "Your answer?" Isla placed the modified contract on his desk. "Yes. With these additions," Dante read quickly. She watched emotions play across his face. Surprise, consideration, and finally something that looked like respect. When he looked up, his eyes held warmth she had not seen before. "Monthly dinners. Getting to know each other." He smiled slightly. "I expected you to add financial protections, more privacy clauses. Instead you want connection. If I am going to be your wife, even contractually, I want to know the man whose name I will carry. Is that acceptable?" Dante studied her for a long moment. Then he picked up a pen and initialed her additions. "More than acceptable. It is unexpected. And welcome." He extended his hand to shake on their agreement. But when Isla placed her hand in his, instead of a business-like shake, Dante turned it over gently. Looked at her fingers like they held secrets. "We begin tomorrow," he said softly. "The board announcement is Thursday. Between now and then we need to make this look real. Are you ready?" No, Isla thought. But she was brave. And maybe this calculated arrangement might teach them both something neither expected. "I am ready," she said, and sealed her fate with a handshake that felt like so much more. That night Isla packed her life into 3 suitcases. Her tiny studio apartment had never held much. Books mostly, research materials, a few photographs, clothes that were practical rather than fashionable. It all fit easily, which felt sad somehow. 28 years of life condensed into 3 bags. Her mother's apartment was harder. Carmen Moreno sat in her armchair, wrapped in blankets despite the warm evening. The cancer had stolen her body's ability to regulate temperature. She looked at Isla with eyes that were still sharp despite everything the disease had taken. "Tell me again about this job," she said in Spanish. They had always spoken Spanish at home. Isla settled on the floor at her mother's feet like she had as a child. "It is a prestigious position with Blackwood Architecture. Research consultant. And mama, the pay, it is enough. For your treatments. For everything." Her mother's thin hand touched Isla's hair. "And this, Mr. Blackwood, he is good to you?" "Yes," Isla said honestly, because even in their brief interactions, Dante had shown her more consideration than men who claimed to care. He was honest about what this was, protected her interests, created space for her to thrive. Carmen was quiet for a moment. "Then you are not telling me everything, mija." Isla looked up, startled. Her mother had always been able to read her. No amount of careful words could hide the truth from a woman who had raised her alone, who knew every expression and hesitation. "It is complicated, mama. But it is good. I promise." Carmen cupped Isla's face. "You have always carried too much alone, always tried to save everyone. But who saves you, my brave girl?" Tears burned Isla's eyes. "Maybe now I am saving myself too." The next morning a moving truck arrived at Isla's apartment at 7 a.m. Professional movers packed her 3 suitcases and few pieces of furniture with efficient care. By 9 a.m., Isla stood in the lobby of Blackwood Tower with her entire life in boxes. Marcus met her with a warm smile and 2 cups of coffee. "Mr. Blackwood is in meetings until noon. I will show you to the penthouse and get you settled." The private elevator required a key. Marcus used his, and they rose smoothly toward the top floor. When the doors opened, Isla stepped into a space that was beautiful and utterly impersonal. All clean lines and neutral colors. Expensive furniture that looked like no one had ever sat on it. Windows with views that should have made you feel on top of the world, but somehow felt isolating instead. "Your suite," Marcus said, opening double doors. "I believe Mr. Blackwood had it customized based on your preferences." Isla walked in and stopped breathing. The room was perfection. Floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking Central Park, in full autumn glory, built-in bookshelves already filled with architectural history texts, including several rare editions she had mentioned wanting in blog posts years ago, an antique writing desk positioned to catch the morning light, a reading chair in the exact style she had photographed at an estate sale and posted about. He paid attention, not just to the contract requirements but to who she was, what mattered to her. The realization made tears prick her eyes. "And your office," Marcus said, opening an adjoining door. Isla followed, and had to sit down. He had created a scholar's dream. Archival quality storage for delicate documents. A drafting table for examining historical plans. Technology for digital restoration work. It was not just a gesture. It was a gift to the historian in her. Recognition of her passion. "Mr. Blackwood wanted to ensure your work would not suffer," Marcus said gently. "He believes you will do important things, Isla. This arrangement should support that, not hinder it." "This is too much," Isla whispered. "It is practical." But Marcus's smile said it was more than that. "You will be here for 2 years. Why should you not have everything you need to thrive?" After Marcus left, Isla explored the penthouse slowly. The main living areas were beautiful but sterile. No photographs, no personal items. Just expensive furniture and perfect aesthetics. Victoria's influence, she guessed. The ex-wife who had convinced Dante to erase himself from his own home. But Isla's suite and office felt alive. Felt like someone had listened and cared, and wanted her to be happy here. The contrast said something about Dante Blackwood that intrigued her. He could create warmth for others, while denying it to himself. At noon, her phone buzzed. "Dante. Hope you are settling in. Dinner tonight at 8. We need to align our story for the board meeting." Professional. Businesslike. But Isla remembered the way he had looked at her yesterday. The moment when his mask had slipped and she saw loneliness that matched her own. She spent the afternoon unpacking, placing her books on the shelves he had filled with rare editions, setting up her research materials in the office. When she found the vintage globe on a shelf, identical to one she had photographed and blogged about, she ran her fingers over it and smiled. Dante Blackwood did his homework. At 7:50, she emerged from her suite wearing a simple black dress. Her armor for unfamiliar situations. The penthouse was quiet. Then she heard soft music from the main living area. Jazz. Kind of Blue by Miles Davis. She followed the sound. Dante stood at the windows, wearing dark slacks and a charcoal sweater instead of a suit. He looked younger, more approachable, almost like a man she might have met in other circumstances and wanted to know. He turned as she entered. "You look beautiful." The word seemed to surprise him. He cleared his throat. "I meant appropriate. For our narrative." "Our narrative," Isla repeated. She moved to the dining table where files and photographs were spread like evidence. "What story are we building?" Dante poured wine. A Bordeaux that Isla recognized from auction catalogs. Each bottle cost thousands. The absurdity hit her. Yesterday she ate ramen for dinner. Tonight she drank wine worth more than her car had been. "We met 3 months ago," Dante began. His voice slipped into planning mode. "You were consulting on the Riverside Project's historical integration. I was immediately drawn to your passion for preservation. It aligned with my design philosophy." "Whirlwind courtship," Isla continued, understanding the blueprint. "Private because of your divorce and my natural introversion. We married quietly because I realized I had wasted years with the wrong person and did not want to waste another moment with the right one." Dante's eyes met hers, and something electric passed between them. "Is that too much?" It was perfect. Romantic enough to be believable. Practical enough to explain the speed. And dangerous because part of Isla wanted it to be true. "The board will scrutinize everything," Dante said. He laid out photographs from his life. "We need to answer questions about each other. Favorite foods. Childhood memories. The moment we knew. We need a history we do not have." "Then tell me the real stories," Isla said impulsively. "Not the public version. The truth. How else will I know you well enough to convince them?" Dante looked startled, then wary. "The contract does not require that level of—" "I know what the contract requires," Isla interrupted, surprising herself. "But I added those monthly dinners for a reason. If we are building something, even something temporary, I need to understand the foundation. He studied her. Some internal debate playing out behind storm gray eyes. Then unexpectedly he smiled. A real smile that transformed his face from handsome to devastating. You are not what I expected, he admitted. What did you expect? Someone more intimidated. Willing to maintain distance. Not someone who wants to dig into foundations. He gestured to the photos. That is architectural vocabulary. You are speaking my language already. Then speak back, Isla challenged. Tell me who Dante Blackwood really is under the awards and buildings and carefully maintained control. Dante poured himself more wine. Isla sensed this was his armor. The ritual giving him time to decide how much to reveal. When he spoke, his voice was lower. More personal than she had yet heard. I am the son of a cleaning woman, who worked 3 jobs to give me opportunities she never had. I learned to read by studying architectural magazines she would salvage from offices she cleaned. I built my first structure at 8. A tree house in the park, completely unauthorized. It stood for 3 years before the city dismantled it. Isla leaned forward, captivated not just by words, but by the subtle vulnerability entering his expression. I started my firm at 25 with money I had saved working construction. Taking projects no one else wanted, renovations in dangerous neighborhoods, adaptive reuse that seemed impossible. And I succeeded because I understood something others did not. Buildings are not monuments to ego. They are homes for human lives. But somewhere, Isla said softly, you stopped seeing your own life as worth living in those spaces. His eyes snapped to hers, shocked. What makes you say that? Your penthouse is beautiful, but there is nothing personal in it. No photos, no mementos. Just aesthetic perfection. You have built a museum to your success, not a home. She gestured around them. Until you created that office for me. That has personality. That has heart. So where is yours? Dante stood, abruptly. Moved to the windows like the city might hold answers. Isla thought she had pushed too far. Violated unspoken boundaries. But when he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. Victoria took it. Or maybe I gave it away so slowly I did not notice until it was gone. Every personal thing. Every piece of my mother's legacy. Every photo of Phoenix and me. She convinced me it was clutter. That minimalism was sophistication. By the time I realized she was erasing me, there was nothing left to defend. Understanding crashed over Isla. The contract marriage was not just about company bylaws. It was about a man trying to protect the fragments of himself that remained. I am sorry, she whispered. That must have felt like demolition, he finished. He turned back to her. Like being torn down piece by piece and told it was renovation. Isla moved to him without thinking. Drawn by instinct to comfort. She stopped just short of touching him, but close enough to feel his warmth. See the pulse at his throat. I will not erase you. Whatever this is, however long it lasts. I see you, Dante. The real foundation, not just the polished exterior. His hand came up, hovering near her cheek but not quite touching. You are dangerous, he murmured. I did not account for you being dangerous. How am I dangerous? You make me want to trust again. His fingers finally made contact. The lightest brush against her skin that sent electricity through her entire body. You make me forget this is just architecture, just structure. You make me want. His phone shattered the moment, buzzing insistently. Dante stepped back. The walls rebuilding even as Isla watched. He checked the screen and his expression hardened. Sebastian Kane just posted on social media. He has seen the board meeting notice. He is speculating. Isla read over his shoulder. Kane's post was carefully worded but clear. Interesting that Dante Blackwood calls an emergency board meeting so soon after his divorce. Desperate times call for desperate measures. He knows, Dante said grimly. Or suspects. Which means we need to accelerate our timeline. How? We announce tomorrow. Not at the board meeting, before it. Control the narrative rather than responding to speculation. He was already texting. Social media, press release, everything. Can you be ready? Isla thought of her quiet life about to be shattered by spotlights. But she looked at Dante. At the man behind the CEO, the son of a cleaning woman who built an empire, the wounded heart trying to protect what little remained. And she knew her answer. What do we need to do? He looked up from his phone. Surprise and gratitude warming his expression. Photos. We need evidence of a relationship. Can I? He hesitated. Will you let me stage our story? Isla placed her hand in his. Feeling that electric connection again. Build our foundation. Even if it is temporary, let us make it structurally sound. For the next hour they crafted their narrative through careful photography. Dante's photographer friend arrived. Actually, it was Marcus, doubling as both lawyer and life coordinator. He captured them in staged intimacy. Isla laughing at something Dante said. She did not have to fake her amusement when he revealed his secret obsession with terrible architecture puns. Dante's hand at her waist as they examined plans together. A quiet moment with their foreheads nearly touching, studying something on her phone. Each shot looked real. More than real. They looked right. Like two people who actually belonged together. Perfect, Marcus murmured, reviewing the images. These tell a story of intellectual connection, shared passion. The board will eat it up. After Marcus left, Isla and Dante stood in the kitchen drinking tea at midnight while Manhattan glittered below. She studied the photos on his phone. They looked like a couple in love. The realization made her heart race. Thank you, Dante said softly. For going along with this. For not making it feel as transactional as it is. Maybe it does not have to be, Isla heard herself say. Transactional, I mean. Maybe we can be friends. In addition to contractual spouses. Something vulnerable crossed his face. I would like that. Though I should warn you, I am terrible at friendship. Ask Phoenix. I cancel plans. I get absorbed in work. I forget birthdays. I am an architectural historian who spends weekends in archives, Isla countered. I think we can navigate each other's particular brands of awkward. His laugh was surprised and genuine. Deal. Friends with a marriage contract. They shook on it. But this time, Dante did not let go immediately. His thumb traced small circles on her wrist where her pulse raced. Isla, he said, his voice dropping to something intimate, what you said earlier, about being a virgin. You know that does not matter to me, right? This arrangement does not require physical. I know. She should pull away. Maintain distance. Instead, she found herself stepping closer. But what if I wanted it to? Eventually. What if? His other hand came up to cup her face and she forgot how to breathe. Don't make offers based on what you think I want or expect. If something develops between us, it needs to be real, not contractual obligation. And if real feelings develop? Isla whispered. What happens to our careful structure then? Then we address them honestly, Dante murmured. But his eyes betrayed uncertainty. Though I should warn you, I am not good at real anymore. Victoria took that capacity. I am all blueprint and no heart. Isla placed her hand over his heart, feeling it race beneath her palm. That is not true. I can feel it. Strong foundation just carefully protected. He drew a sharp breath at her touch. His eyes darkened. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her. Wanted him to despite every logical reason to maintain distance. But instead he gently stepped back. Though his eyes held regret. We should rest. Tomorrow begins our performance. Isla lay in her luxurious bed hours later, sleep eluding her. She thought about Dante just down the hall. About the way he had looked at her. About the dangerous feelings already developing. This was supposed to be simple. A business arrangement with clear boundaries. Instead, she was falling for her contractual husband, before their fake marriage had even been publicly announced. And in his office, Dante sat staring at those staged photos that looked too real. He had designed this arrangement to protect himself, to maintain control, but architecture had taught him that the most beautiful structures often evolved beyond original blueprints. The question was whether his carefully guarded heart could risk such renovation, or if fear of another demolition would keep him forever behind walls. Tomorrow would mark the public beginning of their arrangement. But tonight, in quiet spaces between contractual terms and protective distance, something authentic was taking root. Something that felt dangerously like the foundation for something real. The headlines broke at 6 a.m. Dante Blackwood, architectural visionary and recently divorced CEO, has quietly married Dr. Isla Moreno, renowned architectural historian. The announcement included the carefully staged photos from 2 nights ago. Isla laughing at something Dante said, his hand protective at her waist. The two of them bent over architectural plans, looking like partners in every sense. Isla's phone started buzzing before she was fully awake. Texts from colleagues at the Preservation Society. Emails from former professors. Even a voice message from a college roommate she had not spoken to in 3 years. Everyone wanted to know how she had kept this secret. How she had landed one of New York's most eligible bachelors. What it was like being married to the Ice King. She sat up in bed, her heart pounding as she scrolled through the media coverage. Most of it was positive. Architectural Digest called them a power couple, redefining the intersection of preservation and innovation. The Times ran a thoughtful piece about how shared intellectual passion could be the foundation for lasting relationships. A few tabloids were less kind, speculating about rebound marriages and questioning the timeline. But overall, the narrative was exactly what they had crafted. Two brilliant minds finding unexpected love. A knock on her bedroom door made her jump. "Come in." Dante entered carrying 2 cups of coffee. He was already dressed in running clothes, his hair damp with sweat. He must have been up for hours. "Morning. I thought you might need this." He handed her a cup, made exactly how she liked it. 2 sugars, cream, strong enough to taste like coffee, not milk. She had mentioned her preference once. He remembered. "Thank you." Isla took the cup gratefully, suddenly very aware that she was in pajamas. Her hair wild from sleep, no makeup, completely unglamorous. "The media seems to have bought our story." Dante sat on the edge of her bed, a gesture that felt both intimate and careful. His expression was hard to read. "They did. The board called an emergency meeting for this afternoon. They want to meet you. Officially welcome you to the family." Family? The word felt strange applied to a board of directors. Will they ask difficult questions? Probably. Dante's hand found hers almost absently, his thumb tracing patterns on her knuckles. "But we prepared for this. You know me better after 2 days than Victoria did after 3 years." His voice went rough on his ex-wife's name. "You will be fine. And if I am not fine? If I panic and forget our story? Then I will be right there." Dante's eyes met hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "We are in this together, Isla. I will not let you face them alone." The meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. at Blackwood Architecture headquarters. Isla spent the morning with a stylist Marcus had hired. The woman transformed her with professional efficiency. Hair blown smooth and glossy, makeup that enhanced without being obvious, a cream-colored suit that was elegant and expensive, clearly tailored to fit her perfectly. When Isla looked in the mirror, she saw someone else. Someone polished and sophisticated. Someone who could stand beside Dante Blackwood and look like she belonged. "You look beautiful," Dante said when she emerged. Then he pulled a small box from his pocket. "But you are missing something." Inside was a ring. Not the simple band they had used for the private ceremony that had made their marriage legal. This was a work of art. A vintage diamond set in platinum with Art Deco details that made Isla's historian heart sing. It looked like something from the 1920s, elegant and timeless. "Dante, this is too much. It belonged to my grandmother," he said softly. "My mother's mother. She and my grandfather were married for 63 years. He was a mason, she was a seamstress. They had nothing, but they had everything because they had each other." He slid the ring onto Isla's finger. "It fit perfectly. My mother wanted me to have it. To give to someone who understood that love is not about money or status. It is about partnership." Isla's eyes burned with tears. "But we are not. This is not real." "It is real enough," Dante said. His hands framed her face, thumbs gently wiping away tears before they could ruin her makeup. "You are my wife. That is legal and real. What we become beyond the contract is up to us. But my grandmother's ring belongs with someone who will honor what it represents. And that is you." The board meeting was in the same sky room where Dante had first learned about the succession clause. Isla stood beside him in the elevator, her hand in his, the vintage ring heavy with meaning on her finger. She could feel his tension in the set of his shoulders, the tightness of his grip. "They are going to love you," he murmured. How could they? The board members were already assembled. Margaret Torres stood first, her sharp eyes taking in every detail of Isla's appearance. Then she smiled, genuine warmth transforming her face. "Mrs. Blackwood, welcome. Dante has told us so much about you." The next hour was a careful dance. Questions about how they met. What Isla saw in Dante beyond his success. How she planned to balance her career with her new role. Isla answered honestly, letting her passion for architecture shine through. Talking about Dante's work with genuine admiration that was not hard to fake because it was real. And when Margaret asked the question Isla had been dreading, so this was quite sudden. How do you know this is not just a rebound for Dante or a solution to our succession concerns? Isla felt Dante's hand tighten on hers under the table. But it was Isla who answered. Because I am not interested in rebound relationships or being anyone's solution to corporate problems. I fell in love with the man who sees buildings as homes for human lives. Who remembers that his first structure was an unauthorized treehouse that stood for 3 years. Who calls his mother every Sunday and funds scholarships for kids who grew up like he did. She looked at Dante, letting the truth show in her eyes. I fell in love with Dante Blackwood, the person, not the CEO. And if that was too fast or too unexpected, well, when you find someone who speaks your language, you do not waste time pretending you need to translate. The silence that followed felt endless. Then Margaret smiled. That, my dear, is exactly the answer I hoped to hear. Welcome to the family. After the meeting, riding back to the penthouse, Dante was quiet. Isla watched him, trying to read his expression. Did I say something wrong? No. He turned to her, his eyes holding something vulnerable. You said everything right. But Isla, the way you described me, is that really how you see me? Yes. There was no point in lying. I read your buildings before I met you. They told me who you were. Seeing you in person only confirmed it. His hand came up to cup her cheek. And the falling in love part? Was that just for the board? Isla's heart raced. This was the moment. The choice between safety and truth. I do not know, she whispered. Maybe it started as performance. But Dante, when you gave me your grandmother's ring and told me what it represents, when you stand beside me and make me feel protected instead of trapped, when you create spaces for me to thrive, it stops feeling like acting. So what does it feel like? His voice was rough, his face so close she could feel his breath. Dangerous, she admitted. Like I am standing at the edge of something that could either destroy me or save me, and I cannot tell which. Dante's laugh was shaky. That is exactly how you make me feel. He kissed her then. Not carefully or tentatively, but with a hunger that had been building since the moment their hands first touched. Isla melted into him, her hands finding their way into his hair, her body pressing against his as the kiss deepened. It was nothing like the brief ceremonial kiss at their legal wedding. This was real, raw, full of all the feelings they had been trying to contain. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. That was not in the contract. No. Isla agreed. Her lips felt swollen, her body humming with desire she had never felt before. That was definitely not in the contract. The penthouse felt different when they arrived home. Charged with possibility, Dante helped Isla out of her suit jacket, his hands lingering on her shoulders. We should talk about what just happened. We should, Isla agreed. But she did not want to talk. She wanted to feel. Wanted to stop thinking and analyzing and just let herself fall into whatever this was becoming. Isla? Dante turned her to face him. His eyes were dark with desire but also something else. Caution maybe. Care. You told me you have never been with anyone. I need you to understand that I would never pressure you into anything. Contract or no contract. Kiss or no kiss. You are in control here. The gentleness undid her completely. What if I do not want to be in control? What if I want to trust you with this? His breath caught. Are you sure? No, she admitted. I am terrified. But I am also sure that if I am going to take this step with anyone, I want it to be with you. Not because of the contract, not because I owe you anything, but because when you look at me I feel seen. And when you touch me, I feel safe. And I have never felt either of those things before. Dante's hands framed her face. We go slow. You can stop me anytime. This is about you, not me. What if I want it to be about us? He kissed her again, softer this time but no less intense. Then, us, he murmured against her lips. Come with me. Dante led her to his bedroom. Isla had never been in this room before. It was as impersonal as the rest of the penthouse, all neutral tones and expensive furniture. But as Dante lit candles and dimmed the lights, as he put on soft jazz and turned to her with eyes full of tenderness, the space transformed into something intimate. We can just sleep, he said. Just lie together and talk. Nothing has to happen tonight. But Isla was done being cautious. Done protecting herself from feeling too much. She reached for him, pulling him close. I want this. I want you. Teach me how to not be afraid." What followed was tender and patient and completely overwhelming. Dante treated her like she was precious. Every touch was gentle. Every kiss was reverent. He took his time, mapping her body with hands that trembled slightly, asking permission before each new intimacy. And when the moment came, when there was a flash of pain and then fullness and connection, he held her close and whispered, "I have got you. I have got you. You are safe with me." Isla had not expected the tears, had not expected the overwhelming emotion that came with the physical intimacy. But as she clung to Dante, as he moved with careful gentleness, as pleasure built and broke over her in waves she had never imagined, she understood why people called this making love. Because it did not feel like just bodies. It felt like souls recognizing each other. Afterward, they lay tangled together, both shaking slightly from the intensity. Dante pulled her close, his hand stroking her hair. "Are you okay?" "I am more than okay," Isla whispered. "I am transformed." His arms tightened around her. "So am I." They fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other. And for the first time since his divorce, Dante slept through the night without nightmares. For the first time in years, Isla slept without the weight of worry crushing her chest. The next weeks blurred together in a haze of new experiences. Public appearances where they played the role of devoted newlyweds. But increasingly, it did not feel like playing. The touches became natural. The glances became real. The conversations deepened. Isla met Dante's family. His mother Elena was a tiny woman with her son's gray eyes, and a warmth that filled every space she occupied. She hugged Isla like they had known each other forever. "My son finally found someone who sees him," she said in Spanish, not realizing Isla understood. "Thank God." Phoenix, Dante's younger brother, was easier to read. An environmental activist with their mother's warmth and his own fierce intelligence. He pulled Isla aside during a family dinner. "I do not know how you did it," he said quietly. "But my brother smiles now. Really smiles. Thank you for giving him that." The guilt ate at Isla. If Phoenix knew the truth. If Elena understood their marriage was a contract. But when she tried to confess to Dante that she felt like a fraud, he stopped her with a kiss. "What we have now is real," he said firmly. "However it started, wherever it goes, this moment is real. Do not let shame about the contract steal that from us." Isla's mother was harder to fool. Carmen took one look at Dante and then at her daughter and knew. After he left, having charmed Carmen completely with his careful Spanish and genuine interest in her stories, Carmen caught Isla's hand. "There are layers here I do not understand, mija," she said. "But I see the way he looks at you. Like you are the answer to questions he did not know how to ask. Whatever brought you together, do not let fear keep you from seeing what it could become." 2 months into their marriage, Isla started feeling strange. Exhausted in a way that sleep did not fix. Nauseous at random times. Her body felt different. Foreign. She told herself it was stress. The whirlwind of her new life. The pressure of maintaining their public image. But when she missed her second period, she could not ignore it anymore. The pregnancy test sat on the marble bathroom counter, those 2 pink lines staring up at her like an accusation. They had been careful. Had used protection every time. This was not supposed to happen. Not yet. Maybe not ever given the temporary nature of their arrangement. Isla's hands shook as she took 3 more tests. All positive. She was pregnant with Dante Blackwood's child. The man she was falling in love with, but who had married her with an end date in mind. The man who had been betrayed so deeply he had needed a contract to feel safe. How would he react? Would he think she had trapped him? Would this ruin the fragile real thing growing between them? She heard Dante come home from his late meeting. Heard him moving through the penthouse calling her name. "Isla? Are you here?" "Bathroom," she managed. Her voice sounded strange even to her own ears. He appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie. His smile faded when he saw her face. "What is wrong? Are you sick?" Isla could not speak. She just gestured to the tests lined up on the counter. Dante's eyes went to them, his expression unreadable. He was silent for so long that Isla's heart started breaking. Then he moved. Crossed the space between them in 2 strides and pulled her into his arms. "Oh my God," he whispered into her hair. "Oh my God, Isla. I am sorry," she choked out. "I know this was not part of the plan. I do not know how it happened, we were so careful, I did not mean to trap you." Trap me? Dante pulled back to look at her, his eyes wet with tears she had never seen him shed. Isla, you are carrying my child. Our child. How could you possibly think I would feel trapped? But the contract. 2 years. This complicates everything. Forget the contract, he said fiercely. I told you I do not care about that anymore. And this, his hand moved to her still flat stomach. This is a miracle. A terrifying, unexpected, perfect miracle. You really mean that? Isla searched his face for any sign of doubt or resentment. I mean it. Dante's laugh was shaky. I am completely terrified. I have no idea how to be a father. But Isla, the idea of a tiny person who is half you and half me, who we made together, it makes me happier than I thought I could be anymore. Isla let herself cry then, relief and joy and hormones all mixing together. Dante held her, rocking her gently, his own tears falling into her hair. They stood like that until the storm passed, until something like peace settled over them both. We need to see a doctor, Dante said finally. Make sure everything is okay. And, Isla, I want to do this right. Not because of the board or the company, but because I want our child to grow up knowing their parents chose each other, really chose each other. What are you saying? I am saying that I love you. Dante cupped her face, his eyes intense and sure. I fell in love with you somewhere between the contract signing and the first real conversation, and I have been falling harder every day since. I love your mind, your passion, your gentleness with my broken pieces. I love how you see beauty in old things and find stories in buildings. I love you, Isla Moreno Blackwood. Completely. Permanently. With no end date in mind. Isla's heart felt too big for her chest. I love you too. I think I started loving you when you created that office for me. When you saw who I was and made space for me to be that person fully. When you treated my first time like something sacred instead of something to get through. She pressed her hand over his on her stomach. I love you, Dante, and I cannot wait to meet this little person we made. They kissed with tears on both their faces, tasting salt and hope, and the beginning of something that felt permanent. The doctor's appointment 2 days later confirmed what they already knew. 8 weeks pregnant. Healthy heartbeat. Everything progressing normally. Dante held Isla's hand through the whole exam, his eyes never leaving the ultrasound screen where their baby appeared as a tiny blur of movement. Strong heartbeat, the doctor said warmly. That is exactly what we want to see. I will schedule your next appointment for 4 weeks from now. We should be able to hear more by then. In the car going home, Dante's hand stayed on Isla's stomach. Our baby has a strong heart. Just like their mother. Or their father, Isla countered. You are the strongest person I know, Dante. You survived betrayal that would have broken most people. You built an empire while staying true to your values. You learned to trust again even when it terrified you. You make me sound heroic. His smile was self-deprecating. I am just a man who got lucky enough to find you. Before Isla could respond, Dante's phone buzzed with an alert. He glanced at it, and his expression darkened. What is wrong? Sebastian Kane just announced a major acquisition. He pulled up the news article. And the timing is suspicious. This is a property we have been negotiating for. He somehow knew our exact offer and beat it by a fraction. Inside information, Isla said quietly. Just like with Victoria. Dante's jaw clenched. I thought we had closed all the leaks. Had security vet everyone with access to sensitive information. How is he still getting our data? Maybe it is not about access, Isla said slowly. Her historian's mind starting to see patterns. Maybe it is about method. If someone is feeding him information, they have to be communicating somehow. Have you checked for digital surveillance? Spyware on company devices? We do regular sweeps. Dante was already texting Marcus. But we should do another one. More thorough this time. What they found was worse than either expected. Spyware on 3 board members' phones. So sophisticated it had avoided detection for months. Installed remotely through emails that appeared to come from within Blackwood Architecture's own network. Someone with deep technical knowledge and inside information had been systematically compromising their security. The question was who? And how deep did the betrayal go? Marcus pulled together a crisis team. Security experts, cyber forensic specialists, a private investigator who had worked corporate espionage cases. They set up in a secure conference room, the windows covered, all devices checked and cleared. This is advanced work, the cyber expert said, reviewing the spyware code. Military grade almost. Whoever planted this had resources and expertise. This was not some amateur hacker. This was planned and funded by serious money. Sebastian Kane has serious money, Dante said grimly. But he does not have the technical expertise for this. He had help. Or a partner, Isla suggested. Someone who knows technology and has a grudge against you. The investigator, a sharp-eyed woman named Diana Torres, no relation to board member Margaret, pulled up information on Sebastian Kane's known associates. Most were exactly what you would expect. Business partners. Social connections. Nothing unusual. But then Isla saw a name that made her blood run cold. Wait. Go back. That name. James Hartford. The tech billionaire? Marcus frowned. What connection does he have to Kane? Isla's mind was racing, connecting dots. Hartford Global Technologies. They specialize in corporate surveillance systems. And look at the timeline. She pulled up her laptop, fingers flying. Hartford Global went through a messy acquisition 8 months ago. Right around when Sebastian Kane started his aggressive expansion. You think they are working together? Dante moved behind her chair, reading over her shoulder. I think it is worse than that. Isla kept digging. Look at this. Hartford Global has a subsidiary. Phoenix Solutions. And Phoenix Solutions does contract work for architectural firms including, she felt sick, Blackwood Architecture. You hired them 2 years ago to upgrade your security network. We gave them access to everything, Dante said quietly. Complete system integration. Network infrastructure. God, they could have planted backdoors we would never find. The room erupted into organized chaos. The security team immediately began isolating systems, looking for additional compromises. Marcus started drafting legal actions. Diana made calls to contacts in federal law enforcement. And Isla sat with Dante's hand on her shoulder, feeling their baby flutter for the first time inside her, and realized their contract marriage had put them in the crosshairs of something much bigger than corporate rivalry. This is about more than stealing deals, she said quietly. If they have been inside your systems for 2 years, they have had access to everything. Financial records, legal documents, personal information, including the details of our marriage contract, Dante finished. He pulled Isla up from her chair, his hands protective on her waist. They know this started as an arrangement. They could leak that information, destroy our credibility, or worse. Isla's hand moved to her stomach. They know I am pregnant. They know about your succession clause, Dante. If they wanted to cause maximum damage, they could do it now, when we are most vulnerable. Then we do not give them the chance. Dante's voice was steel. We go on offense. Expose their conspiracy before they can use our secrets against us. He turned to Diana. How fast can you build a case? If I had cooperation from the FBI, maybe 2 weeks. Make it 1, Dante said. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through contacts. I have a friend at the bureau. Someone I trust. He will expedite this. The call was brief but effective. Within hours, federal agents were on site at Blackwood Architecture, beginning a formal investigation into corporate espionage. Dante gave them everything. Full access to their systems. All the evidence they'd gathered. Complete cooperation, but he kept one thing private. The details of his marriage contract with Isla. That stayed sealed, protected by attorney-client privilege, and the fact that it had no bearing on the business crimes being investigated. By the end of the week, the FBI had enough evidence to raid both Sebastian Kane's offices and Hartford Global Technologies. The media frenzy was immediate and brutal. 2 of New York's most prominent businessmen under investigation for conspiracy, corporate espionage, and wire fraud. The architectural and tech worlds were rocked. And through it all, Dante and Isla stood together, united in public appearances, stronger than ever in private moments. The conspiracy that was meant to destroy them had instead forged them into something unbreakable. At 12 weeks, Isla had another ultrasound. Dante held her hand as the technician moved the wand over her small but visible baby bump. They had decided to wait to learn the sex, wanting to preserve some surprise. But what the technician said next was surprise enough. Oh! The woman's eyes widened as she studied the screen. Well, this explains why your hormone levels were so elevated. Congratulations! You are having twins. Twins. The word echoed in the quiet room. Isla looked at Dante and saw her own shock mirrored in his face. 2 babies? The technician turned the screen. See? 2 distinct heartbeats. 2 separate placentas. Fraternal twins. Everything looks healthy and right on track. Isla started laughing. She could not help it. The absurdity of it all. A contract marriage that became real love. An unexpected pregnancy that became twin miracles. Dante joined her, his laughter slightly hysterical, his arms pulling her close. 2, he kept repeating. We are having 2 babies. Isla, we are having twins. The news should have been purely joyful. But that night, researching twin pregnancies on her laptop, Isla found something that made her blood run cold. A medical journal article about fertility treatments, experimental drugs that could increase the likelihood of multiple births. And the lead researcher on the study was affiliated with Hartford Global Technologies through their pharmaceutical division. She showed Dante the article, watched his face go from confused to horrified to furious as he read. You think they drugged you? His voice was dangerous. You think they somehow dosed you with fertility drugs to guarantee a pregnancy? I do not know, Isla whispered. But Dante, the timing. We were so careful. And suddenly I am pregnant with twins? What are the odds? Phoenix Solutions installed our security system, Dante said slowly. Including the environmental controls for the penthouse, air quality, water filtration. God, if they wanted to introduce something into our environment, they could have done it easily. The implications were staggering. Not just corporate espionage but assault. Violation of the most intimate kind. Dante immediately called Diana and the FBI. Within hours, their penthouse was swarming with agents, taking samples of everything. Air, water, food, anything that could have been contaminated. The results took a week. Long days of Isla alternating between terror for her babies and rage at the violation. Dante barely slept, working with his legal team to build a case while staying close to Isla, his protectiveness reaching new levels. When Diana finally called with results, they were in the penthouse living room. Dante put her on speaker so Isla could hear. We found it, Diana said. Traces of a fertility enhancement drug in your water filtration system, specifically designed to increase the chances of multiple ovulation and implantation. It has been there for at least 6 months, slowly dosing anyone who drank the water. Isla's hand went to her stomach where their twins were growing. Are they safe? Will this hurt them? We consulted with maternal fetal medicine specialists, Diana assured her. The drug itself is not harmful to fetal development. It just increases likelihood of multiples. Your babies are healthy, Isla. This does not change that. But it changes everything else, Dante said quietly. This is not just espionage. This is assault. Reproductive coercion. They drugged my wife to force a pregnancy that would complicate our lives. Actually, Diana's voice went grim, we think it was more calculated than that. We found documents in Hartford's seized files. Plans for a long-term operation they called Project Succession. The goal was to engineer a situation where you would be trapped in your marriage by children, unable to leave without risking your company. Permanently under their surveillance through the systems they installed. They wanted to control me, Dante said. And they tried to use Isla and our children to do it. There is more. Diana hesitated. Victoria Ashford was involved. We have emails between her, Kane, and Hartford. She was supposed to be the long-term control. But when you divorced her, they needed a new angle. When you announced your marriage to Isla, they accelerated their timeline. Victoria. Even now she was finding ways to hurt him. Dante's hand found Isla's, gripping tight. Are they being arrested? Federal agents are moving now. Multiple charges. Conspiracy, corporate espionage, assault, reproductive coercion. They are looking at serious prison time. Good, Dante said flatly. I want them buried legally. I want to make sure they never do this to anyone else. After Diana hung up, Dante pulled Isla into his arms. I am so sorry, he whispered. I brought this into your life. My enemies came after you and our children because of me. No, Isla said firmly. They came after us because they are criminals who thought they could engineer and control human lives. But Dante, they failed. Yes, maybe the twins were influenced by their drugs. But our love was not. Our choice to be together was not. What we have built is real, and no conspiracy can change that. How do you always know what to say? Because I love you. Isla pulled back to look at him. And I love these babies. However they were conceived, whatever interference there was, they are ours. They are wanted. And we are going to raise them together with honesty and love, and all the things Victoria and Kane and Hartford do not understand. Dante kissed her, pouring everything he felt into it. When they parted, he kept her close, his hand on her growing belly. We should get married again. Really married. Not a contract or legal necessity, just us, choosing each other, making vows we write ourselves. We are already married, Isla laughed. Then we renew our vows. In front of everyone who matters. I want to stand in front of my mother and brother, your mother, Marcus and Diana, and everyone who helped us through this. I want to promise you forever with no clauses or end dates. I want to marry you, Isla. Again and again. For the rest of our lives. Yes, she whispered. Yes to all of it. If you are feeling the power of love that refuses to be controlled or manipulated. If this story is touching your heart, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Because we are heading into the most beautiful part of Dante and Isla's journey, where they prove that real love can triumph over any conspiracy. The arrests were spectacular. Sebastian Kane, James Hartford and Victoria Ashford all taken into federal custody within hours of each other. The media coverage was relentless, dissecting every detail of the conspiracy. How Hartford Global had planted surveillance in dozens of companies. How Kane had used insider information to destroy competitors. How Victoria had been promised a percentage of Blackwood architecture once they successfully took it over. But the detail that shocked the public most was the reproductive coercion. The fact that they had drugged Dante and Isla's home to engineer a pregnancy. The violation was so extreme, so calculated, that even hardened legal analysts were stunned. Isla found herself at the center of a media storm. Calls for interviews. Requests for her story. Offers for book deals and speaking engagements. The quiet historian who had valued privacy above all was suddenly a public figure. A symbol of resilience. The woman who had turned corporate conspiracy into unexpected blessing. She declined every interview. Refused every offer. What she had with Dante, what they were building with their twins, was private. Sacred. Not something to be commodified or explained to strangers. Instead, she focused on preparing for their vow renewal and the baby's coming. Dante had commissioned an architect friend to design a nursery that was perfect. Gender neutral because they still did not know if they were having boys, girls or one of each. Full of light and soft colors and carefully chosen details that made the space feel like a sanctuary. At 20 weeks they finally learned the sex. 2 boys. Isla cried happy tears watching the ultrasound, seeing her sons move and stretch in their private world. Dante's hand never left hers, his own eyes wet as he watched his children. We need names, he said later that night. They were curled up in bed, his hand on her belly feeling the baby's kick. Something meaningful. Something that honors where we came from and where we are going. Isla had been thinking about this. What about Matteo for one? It means, gift of God. Because that is what they are. Despite how the pregnancy happened, these babies are gifts. Matteo, Dante repeated, testing it. I love it. And, for the second? Raphael. It means God has healed. Because they have, haven't they? Healed us. Given us a future we did not think we could have. Dante kissed her, soft and lingering. Matteo and Raphael Blackwood. Perfect. The vow renewal ceremony was planned for Isla's 24th week. Small and intimate. Held in the same botanical garden where Dante's mother and father had married 40 years ago. Before his father had left. Before his mother had learned that sometimes love was not enough to keep someone who did not want to stay. But this was different. Dante and Isla were both choosing to stay. Both fighting for what they had built. The garden was in full spring bloom, flowers everywhere, sunlight filtering through trees. 40 guests. Family and true friends. People who had supported them through the conspiracy and believed in their love even when others doubted. Isla wore a simple cream-colored dress that accommodated her visible baby bump. No veil. No elaborate train. Just her, radiant and real, walking toward the man she loved. Dante wore a dark suit, no tie, looking more relaxed than anyone had seen him in years. And when Isla reached him, when he took her hands in his voice was steady and sure. I wrote you something, he said. Can I read it? Isla nodded, tears already threatening. Dante pulled a paper from his pocket. When I asked you to marry me the first time, it was a business transaction. A solution to a problem. I was so focused on protecting myself, that I almost missed the greatest gift I could have received. You." He looked up from the paper, meeting her eyes. "You saw me when I was invisible to myself. You found beauty in my broken pieces. You taught me that vulnerability is not weakness, it is the only path to real strength. And when our enemies tried to use our love as a weapon, you showed me that what we have is stronger than any conspiracy, any betrayal, any force trying to tear us apart. Isla, I am standing here in front of everyone who matters, carrying our twin sons, and I am promising you, I will choose you every day for the rest of my life. I will honor you, protect you, build with you, and I will love you with everything I have. No contracts, no conditions, just love, pure and permanent and real." By the time he finished, there was not a dry eye in the garden. Isla took a shaky breath, trying to compose herself enough to speak. She had written her own vows, had practiced them 100 times. But standing here, looking at Dante, she forgot every carefully chosen word. Instead, she spoke from her heart. "I was drowning when I met you, drowning in debt and fear, and the weight of trying to save my mother while losing myself. You offered me a lifeline, but what you gave me was so much more. You gave me a home, not just in your penthouse but in your life. You made space for me to be fully myself. And when I gave you the most vulnerable parts of me, my inexperience, my fear, my love, you treated them as precious." She pressed his hand to her belly where their sons were active, kicking and rolling. "These babies were created in complicated circumstances, but they are being born into pure love. And that is what I promise you, Dante, to love you purely, to build our family with honesty, to never let fear make me hide from you. You are my partner, my home, my miracle, and I choose you, today and every day after." The minister, who had known Dante's family for decades, smiled through her own tears. "By the power vested in me, and more importantly, by the power of the love you have declared here today, I pronounce you husband and wife. Again. Dante, you may kiss your bride." And he did. Thoroughly. To applause and laughter and the sound of Isla's mother crying happy tears in the front row. The reception was held in a restaurant Dante had rented out. Good food, better company, speeches that were funny and touching. But the moment that meant the most to Isla was when Dante's mother Elena pulled her aside. "My son was lost," Elena said softly in Spanish. "After Victoria, after the betrayal, I thought he would never find his way back to trust, to love. But you, mija, you gave him a map home. Thank you for fighting for him, for giving me grandchildren who will grow up knowing what real love looks like." "I should thank you," Isla replied in the same language. "You raised a man who knows how to build, who understands that the strongest structures are built on honest foundations. Your son saved me as much as I saved him. Then you saved each other." Elena kissed both her cheeks. "That is what real partnership is." At 28 weeks, Isla's doctor recommended bed rest. The twins were growing well, but Isla's blood pressure was creeping up. Nothing dangerous yet, but enough to warrant caution. Dante immediately rearranged his entire life, set up a home office in their bedroom so he could work beside her, hired a private chef to make sure she ate properly, read every pregnancy book he could find, highlighting sections about twin pregnancies and asking questions that made Isla laugh and love him more. "You do not have to do all this," she said one afternoon. He was arranging pillows around her, making sure she was perfectly comfortable. "I am just on bed rest, not dying." "You are growing our children," Dante corrected. "You are doing the hardest work either of us will ever do. The least I can do is make sure you have good pillows." At 32 weeks, Isla woke in the middle of the night with contractions. Not painful but regular. Dante called the doctor immediately, then drove them to the hospital with careful speed. Too early, Isla kept thinking. The babies are too early. But when they arrived, when the medical team examined her, the news was both concerning and hopeful. "You are in early labor," the doctor confirmed. "We are going to try to stop it with medication, give the babies a few more weeks to develop, but we need to keep you here for monitoring." The hospital room became their temporary home. Dante never left. Marcus brought him changes of clothes and updates on the company. Phoenix visited with Isla's mother, both of them determined to keep her spirits up. Friends sent flowers and gifts until the room looked like a garden. And through it all, Dante held Isla's hand, read to her, brought her favorite foods when the hospital meals got boring, rubbed her swollen feet and told her stories about buildings he was designing with special features for their sons. A playroom with north-facing light. A reading nook with built-in shelves. A rooftop garden where they could learn about plants. "You are going to be such a good father," Isla said one night. He was sitting beside her bed, his hand on her belly feeling the twins' kick. "I am terrified I will mess it up," he admitted. "My father left. I do not have a model for this." "Yes you do." Isla covered his hand with hers. "Your mother. She showed you that love means staying. That family is built through showing up every single day. And Dante, you show up. For me, for our sons, for everyone you love. That is what makes you a good father already." At 35 weeks, the contractions could not be stopped anymore. Isla's blood pressure spiked. The doctor made the call. "We need to deliver. Today. The babies are big enough. Their lungs are mature. It is safer for everyone if we do not wait." Terror and excitement warred in Isla's chest as they prepared her for surgery. Dante was beside her in scrubs, his eyes visible above the mask, full of love and fear and anticipation. "Ready?" he asked. "No," she laughed. "But let us do this anyway." The surgery was quick and efficient. Isla felt pressure but no pain, heard the doctor calling out updates, felt Dante's hand never leaving hers. And then, the sound that changed everything. A baby crying. Strong and angry, and absolutely perfect. "Baby A," the doctor announced. 6 pounds 2 ounces. Completely healthy. "Matteo," Dante whispered. "That is Matteo." Seconds later, another cry joined the first. "Baby B 6 pounds even. Also perfectly healthy. Raphael," Isla said through tears. "Our Raphael." They brought the babies to her one at a time, still wet and squalling, to place on her chest for brief moments before taking them to be cleaned and checked. Isla looked at Matteo's tiny, perfect face, his eyes squeezed shut, his little fists waving. Then Raphael, slightly smaller, with a full head of dark hair already. "Our sons," she whispered to Dante. "We made these perfect little humans." "We did," he agreed, his voice thick with emotion. "And they are absolutely beautiful. Just like their mother." In the recovery room, with both babies cleaned and swaddled, Dante held Matteo while Isla held Raphael. The twins were already showing personality. Matteo was calm, alert, studying his father's face with serious concentration. Raphael was more vocal, making little sounds, his hands grasping at air. "They look like you," Isla said. "Both of them have your eyes. But your nose," Dante countered. "And I think Raphael has your stubborn chin." "They are perfect," Isla said simply. "And they are ours. Not engineered by conspiracies or corporate plans. Ours because we choose them and love them. And we'll raise them with everything we have." "Yes," Dante agreed. He leaned over to kiss her softly. "Our family. Built on choice and love. The best architecture there is." The next days were a blur of feeding schedules and diaper changes and visitors. Elena came and cried happy tears holding her grandsons. Phoenix brought ridiculously impractical gifts like tiny leather jackets. Isla's mother sat in a chair, still weak from her treatments but radiant with joy, singing Spanish lullabies to the babies. Marcus arrived with legal documents. The final dissolution of the original marriage contract. Since they had renewed their vows and the 2-year term was meaningless now, they needed to officially terminate the business arrangement and replace it with a standard marriage. Dante signed without hesitation. Then he ripped the contract in half. "That was never us anyway," he said. "This is us." He gestured to Isla, holding Raphael while he cradled Matteo. "This is what we built. And no contract could capture it anyway." When they finally brought the twins home to the penthouse, now transformed with baby equipment and organized chaos, Isla stood in the living room holding both her sons, and realized how far they had come. A year ago she was drowning in debt and desperation. Dante was hollow from betrayal, hiding behind contracts. Now they were parents. Partners. People who had fought for their love and won. "Look at us," she said to Dante. He was attempting to assemble a complicated baby swing, instructions spread around him. "We survived corporate conspiracies and engineered pregnancies and twin babies arriving early. We can survive anything." Dante looked up at her. His hair disheveled, his expensive shirt covered in spit up, his eyes full of love. "We can more than survive. We can thrive. Because we have each other." That night, with both babies finally asleep in their perfect nursery, Dante and Isla collapsed on their bed. Exhausted. Happy. Complete. "I love you," Isla whispered. "More than I thought it was possible to love anyone." "I love you too," Dante replied. He pulled her close, both of them too tired for anything but holding each other. "Thank you for seeing past my walls, for fighting for us, for giving me a family I never thought I would have. Thank you for building a foundation strong enough to hold all of this," Isla countered. "You taught me that the best structures are built with honesty and care, that real love is architecture of the finest kind." As they drifted off to sleep, exhausted new parents with everything they never knew they needed, neither noticed the small light on Dante's phone. A message from Diana. Final court date set. Kane, Hartford, and Victoria all pleading guilty. Justice coming. But justice had already come in a way the criminals never understood. Not in courtrooms or prison sentences. In a penthouse transformed into a home. In twins born from conspiracy but raised in love. In a contract marriage that became the realest thing either Dante or Isla had ever known. Love had won. Not because it was easy. Not because it was expected. But because two broken people chose to build something together. Chose each other. Every day. Through everything. And that choice, that commitment, was stronger than any force trying to tear them apart. 6 months later, Dante and Isla sat in their living room watching Matteo and Raphael play on a blanket between them. The twins were starting to roll over, making sounds that might someday be words, grabbing at everything in reach. The penthouse no longer looked like a museum. There were toys scattered across expensive rugs, photographs on walls, life and chaos and love in every corner. "Do you ever regret it?" Dante asked suddenly. "How we started? The contract, the arrangement, all of it?" Isla looked at him, this man who had given her everything. Who had started as a business proposition and become her everything. "Never. Because it led us here. And I would not change this for anything. Even knowing what they did? The drugs, the manipulation? Even knowing that. Because Dante, they tried to engineer our lives and instead they gave us the push we needed to find each other. They thought they could control the outcome. But real love cannot be controlled. It can only be chosen. And I choose you. I choose this family. I choose us." Dante pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. "Best decision I ever made. Signing that contract. And best decision I ever made was tearing it up and choosing you for real." Matteo made a sound, reaching for his father. Raphael immediately did the same, not wanting to be left out. Dante and Isla laughed, each picking up a baby. This was their life now. Messy. Loud. Perfect. And it had all started with a contract marriage neither of them believed could become real. But the truth was, it had been real from the very beginning. From the moment Isla walked into that conference room and saw Dante standing at the window. From the first conversation about architecture and stories. From the first real touch that sent electricity through both of them. The contract was never what made them married. It was just the blueprint. What they built from that blueprint, with honesty and courage and love, that was what made them family. So what did Dante and Isla teach us through their journey? What lessons can we take from their story of contract marriage turned true love? First, they showed us that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is accept help when we need it most. Isla was drowning. And instead of prideful refusal, she took the lifeline offered even though it was unconventional. Sometimes the path to saving ourselves looks nothing like we expected. Second, they proved that honesty is the only real foundation. Their contract was clear about what it was. No false promises. No manipulation. And that honesty became the bedrock for everything real that grew between them. Third, Dante and Isla taught us that past betrayals do not have to define future possibilities. Dante had been destroyed by Victoria's lies. He could have closed himself off forever. Instead he risked trying again, and that risk gave him everything he had lost, and more. Fourth, they showed that real love cannot be engineered or controlled. Their enemies tried to manipulate their pregnancy, thinking it would trap them. Instead, it became a blessing that strengthened them. Love that is real, finds a way to thrive even in impossible circumstances. Fifth, they demonstrated that vulnerability is strength, not weakness. When Dante admitted he was falling in love. When Isla confessed her fears and inexperience. Those moments of vulnerability deepened their connection rather than undermining it. Sixth, Dante and Isola proved that family is built through choice, not just biology. Their twins may have been conceived under manipulation, but they are being raised in chosen love. Every day, Dante and Isola choose each other and their sons. Finally, they taught us that the most beautiful structures are often the ones that evolve beyond their original blueprints. They started with a contract, but they built a family. Started with transaction, but created transformation. Started with walls, but made a home. Their story reminds us that love is not about perfect beginnings or fairy tale meet cutes. It is about two imperfect people choosing to see each other fully, to build something together with honesty, to fight for what matters when forces try to tear it apart. It is about understanding that sometimes the greatest blessings come wrapped in the strangest packages. A contract marriage, an unexpected pregnancy, twins conceived through conspiracy but born into love. These things that could have destroyed them instead made them unbreakable. And it is about knowing that real love, the kind that lasts, is not something that happens to you. It is something you choose, build, protect, every single day. Through good times and bad. Through conspiracies and court battles. Through sleepless nights with newborn twins and quiet moments of connection. Dante and Isola's journey from contract to commitment shows us that our past does not determine our future. That broken hearts can heal. That walls built for protection can become foundations for love. That the most cynical arrangements can transform into the most genuine partnerships. So if you are facing impossible choices, remember Isola's courage. If you are afraid to trust again after betrayal, remember Dante's risk. If you think your situation is too complicated for love to grow, remember that twins were born from corporate conspiracy and became the greatest blessing two people could receive. Love finds a way. Not because it is easy, not because circumstances are perfect, but because two people decide it is worth fighting for, worth choosing, worth building together with honesty and care and commitment. That is what Cedar Light Love Stories is all about. Reminding you that even in the darkest circumstances, even when love seems impossible, even when you are starting from a place of transaction rather than romance, real connection can grow. Real love can thrive. Real families can be built. If this story touched your heart, if Dante and Isola's journey inspired you, show us some love. Hit that like button. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that second chances are possible. That love can grow in unexpected places. That contracts can become covenants and transactions can transform into forever. And subscribe to Cedar Light Love Stories so you never miss these journeys of hope, transformation, and love that conquers all obstacles. Drop a comment and tell us, what spoke to you most in Dante and Isola's story? What moment made you believe in their love? We read every comment, and your stories inspire ours. Remember, your story is not over. Your best chapters may still be unwritten. And sometimes the most beautiful love stories are the ones that start in the most unlikely ways. Until next time, keep believing in second chances. Keep choosing vulnerability over walls. Keep building foundations of honesty. And most of all, keep choosing love. Because in the end, love is the architecture that holds up every other structure in our lives. This has been Cedar Light Love Stories, where every story reminds us that love, real love, is worth every risk, every choice, every brave step into the unknown. Thank you for spending this time with Dante, Isola, Matteo, and Raphael. May their story inspire you to build something beautiful in your own life.